A man shuffled off the boardwalk and moved through the darkness toward them. He was a small man, Packard saw, and he wore a checkered suit of black and white. A gold watch chain glittered across his vest. His cheeks were puffed out like a gopher's scurrying home with a load of grain, and his lips were puffed out, too, in what seemed like an eternal pout. A jaunty mustache rode his upper lip and struck a grotesque note. "Good evening, gentlemen," said the little man. "Good evening," said the man in the chair. "I'm looking for my eye," said the man. "You haven't seen it, have you?" The chair crashed forward, and the man in it was aghast. "You're looking for your what?" "My eye," explained the little man. "It fell out, and I lost it." He pointed towards the left side of his face, out of which stared an empty socket. "It was a glass eye, you see. It would look something like a marble." That is a little section from this week's one of the three stories that Clifford D. Simak wrote, Westerns. And this one was called The Reformation of Hangmans Gulch. It was originally published in the December 1944 issue of Big Book Western magazine. And they class them as novels. There'd be like a couple of them in there, maybe a short story as well. And this is approximately 50 pages in the complete short stories of Clifford D. Simak. And the cover price was 15 cents for the magazine. And the editor describes it as his Simak story as smashing owl hoot novel. And it's divided up into chapters, and we've got a character riding in off the range into town, and he sees someone hanging. There was a hanging, and he realizes it was the man that he was coming to see, that he's got a letter from, and to say that something big was going to happen. So, and he sort of was, he was musing that luckily he got the letter a bit late, because it could be him hanging there as well, whatever the guy had in mind. So he goes off into the town, and at the livery stable, that's where he meets this person without the eye. I thought that was just a fabulous sort of little line, description. And he goes along, and he meets the guy who is head of the town, who is very disrespectful to the preacher man, and his name is Packard. That's wrote in, and he sort of, he gets off on the wrong foot with the guy who runs the town. He sort of roughs him up a little bit, but then he gets a bottle smashed over his head by the bartender. The preacher man sort of takes him in and tells him a few things about the town, and he gets sort of tipped off as well that there's going to be the head guy's sharpshooter, the gunslinger, is going to gun for him. So he's back in the bar, and the guy comes in, the gun shooter comes in through the doors, the flapping doors, and Packard kills him, even though he's got his back towards him, because he's a very good shot. He was a trick shooter in the circus, it turns out, and actually he's the son of a well-known outlaw as well. And he's come there to sort of, because he knows there's something that he can make some money at, basically, and he's tried various jobs that he can't stick down to, mainly because his past, or his father's past, catches up, and nobody wants him and trusts him. But because he guns down the head guy's sharpshooter, that he gets an offer from the head guy to say, you could take his place. and and he's got a job that's going to steal some gold dust the next day, and that's what happened to his friend who he was coming there for, was going to steal the gold dust before it got on the coach, but he was caught, and the vigilantes strung him up. And it's an interesting thing because vigilantes, to most people's minds, are lawless people taking the law into their own hands, and lynching people and doing things like that. However, at times in the West, vigilantes were the only law, and they were sort of self-appointed, and not always did stuff bad. They actually were the only justice that was going around, and that's what people think in this town that's sort of happening, but it's not. So he gets on a job with of the to capture, stop the stagecoach and steal the gold dust. So he does this. He gets sent out with someone, but he first speaks to the preacher again. The preacher wants to make him a marshal and clean up the town, and he refuses, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. He just wants to make a name for himself and get some cash and move on. So he's riding out with to meet the gang of the bad guys, and another one of the bad guys comes up and shoots the partner that he's riding with, and he was somebody that used to ride with his father, so he knows that Packard's going to be doing something, going to double cross and take the gold dust for himself, so he wants in on it. He wants to help. So they waylay the coach, but then he Packard makes his move, but he forgets that there was somebody else around, and he gets shot in the shoulder. But as a passenger on the stagecoach was the preacher's daughter, so that compounds things a little bit. But he's sort of, they're going to string him up because he sort of turned on them. The gang will. So he's tied up, and the girl's tied up, and the guy that I read about with the glass eye actually turns out to be an insurance detective, insurance dick, that has been he's been investigating the head guy of the town, because he's been playing at both ends. He's been stealing the gold and keeping it, and then applying for insurance for it. So they've sent an investigator. So he sort of winds up saving Packard and the girl, until at the last minute, as soon as they think everything's okay, the head guy shows up. Randall shows up, and he sort of holds him at gunpoint, and says he's going to shoot them and shoot the girl. Then all of a sudden somebody else comes up, which happens to be the preacher man, her father, who actually turns out to be, that's a bit convoluted, but turns out to be someone else that used to ride with Packard's father. But he got religion, and he doesn't want to shoot Randall, but he says, so they have fisticuffs. They have a fist fight, and he beats he almost beats him to death. So he leaves the Randall to the insurance dick, and he talks Packard to come back into town, and he's going to tell the truth of who he is, and if the town will accept him, then Packard will stay, and I'm assuming with the provision that he will become marshal of the area. And that's where it sort of ends. And it's it's your typical western. It's not much. Like it's a little longer than a short story. Well, it's a longer short story, I should say. And I think this is his third, sixth published western, or the sixth published western known for Simak. And I think he was really hitting his stride at that point. It began like even the last one we read last week. He was hitting his stride, and I could see Simak in the writing, and in this one, definitely, it's well done, and there's some humor in it, Simak style humor, and but it has a lot of the cliches of the shooting, stagecoach, the range, saloons, livery stable, horses, a fist fight, all that kind of stuff, and also something that the editor mentions in the at the beginning here, the editor of this collection, and he talks about that this is in this and perhaps a couple other Western, Simak displays his apparent fascination with the way smoke from a burning cigarette can rise up into the eyes of the smoker. And you first see that when Packard sees the guy hanging, that's been hung, and his name is Cardaway, but he says, and then he says he remembered the straight, thin lips with the dangling cigarette that poured smoke into those leering, squinting eyes. And it's the kind of stuff like that makes Simak's writing kind of nice, because he has his own little touches of things like that that he describes, and that's something that I've not noticed. It might be only in his westerns, so it'll be interesting to see if that shows up again. But again, it's I really enjoyed this one more so than the other ones, because this I felt at home with Simak. The other ones, I think he was doing okay, but I really felt at home with this one, with Simak for some reason. I was getting there with the last one we read, but there's one before this that I don't have, that I haven't read yet, or I won't be able to read until the 13th and 14th volume of this comes out, and it'll be in one of those volumes. But yeah, and the reason why I'm doing this one separately is because I haven't read the other two yet. I've started the second one, which is another 50-page story, and the other one's about 30 some pages, so it's a bit shorter. But I'll get to those. I'll do separate video. It depends on how they play out. I'll read them together, and I might do a video for both of them. But it was just a lovely little story, and this is in place. Normally I would put my book to film today, but which is going to be The Searchers. But I've read the book. I've got to rewatch the film, listen to the commentaries, and read some supplementary material about the book. So it'll be later in the week. It'll be at some point. Hopefully Tuesday. I'm going to hit for Tuesday that I can do this, but no guarantees. But I will at some point through the week get to the book to film. And then next week is going to be, or this week as we're coming up to, will be Warlock, and for my book to film, and then again another 3 Clifford Simak stories, which I'm really enjoying. As I say, it is something. If you get a chance and you like Clifford Simak, I would say read this one definitely. I really enjoyed this one. It's it's like feel like coming home to Simak. Take care, book 2.